Hi, I'm Pastor Matt McEwen with KosherPastor.com and Yeshivat Shuvu. It's my joy to be with you again this week as we look into the Torah portion. This week, we're in the first portion of the book of Devarim, or in English, Deuteronomy. Something very interesting happens in the first 6 chapters here of Deuteronomy, and that is Moses is giving a rebuke. In fact, it's the longest recorded rebuke in the Bible. But he's not giving a rebuke as a way of punishment. He's giving a rebuke so that people will learn. He's giving a rebuke to reprove his brothers and sisters, the children of Israel, so that they can learn from their past mistakes. Something very interesting happens in this rebuke in chapter 3, verse 11, that I really love. Let's rewind a little bit and go back to the story of the Meraglim, the story of the 12 spies. If you remember, just a few weeks ago, we were learning how 10 of those 12 spies doubted the Lord. They doubted what God said. God said, go in and take the land. But when they saw the inhabitants of the promised land, they were afraid. One of the things that they said was, we look like grasshoppers to them, and we look like grasshoppers compared to them in our own eyes. Isn't that an interesting statement? We look like grasshoppers to them. Well, how do the spies know what these people think of them if they never came in contact with them, if they were just looking at them from afar? Sometimes we have a way of projecting what we think someone is thinking. Sometimes we don't even realize they might not be thinking that about us. But that's for another time. I want you to remember that 10 out of those 12 spies were so afraid because they said that the people in the promised land were giants. Now, I want you to remember that as we talk about Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 11. Because Moses reminds them of some of the victories that God has given them. In fact, in Deuteronomy 3:11, he mentions Og, king of Bashan. You'll remember that in previous Torah portions, he was mentioned there with Sihon as well. So Og is the king of Bashan. Why do I bring this up? Well, Moses talks about how they defeated these people. And the last survivor, as the Bible says there in Deuteronomy, the last survivor of the Rephaim was Og, king of Bashan. And then it gives a curious statement. It says, and his bed was made of iron, and it was 4 cubits wide and 9 cubits long, according to the standard cubit. In the Bible that I was just reading from, the Complete Jewish Study Bible, it has this wonderful parenthetical statement, and that is that in feet, that is 4 feet wide, no, 6 feet wide, 4 cubits wide, 6 feet wide and 13.5 feet long. Just think about that for a moment. Now, I own a queen-size bed. I have slept in a king-size bed, but this is truly a giant-size bed, made of iron so that it's strong to support the weight of such a huge person, 6 feet wide and 13.5 feet long. My goodness, this truly was a giant. And Moses brings this up to remind them, we defeated him. God gave us the victory. We defeated this evil king. In your life, sometimes you will come across giant-sized situations. You won't even understand how you're going to get through or how you're going to meet the challenge that has been presented before you. But the thing that we have to remember is that God was faithful, God is faithful, and God will be faithful. It reminds me of one of the prayers that we say in the synagogue on Shabbat, where God did good, he was good, he is good, and he will do good to his people Israel. You see, God can be counted on. We can count on the victory that God has assured us of. Sometimes it's good to reflect back and to look at how prayers have been answered throughout our experience. Some people even keep a prayer journal. Maybe that's something I could encourage you to do. And don't forget to go back as you write about the things that you're praying about. Don't forget to go back and write in where God answered that prayer. Sometimes it's good to have a reminder. Sometimes it's good to look back and see how faithful God has been. Because sometimes when we're afraid in the moment, when we're apprehensive or anxious about something that's happening in the moment, it's because we're not focusing on the victory that the Lord has already had in our lives. Let me encourage you. Sometimes you have a big assignment in front of you, a mission that God is calling you to, and you say, Lord, there's no way that I can do it. Well, you're half right. There's no way that you can do it on your own. But with God's help, you will be able to accomplish anything He asks you to do. I pray that this message has been an encouragement to you. I pray that in any situation right now that you're facing that is difficult, you will remember an iron bed moment in that situation where you can point to something, maybe even something physical that helps you be reminded of that, like a journal or something like that, where you look for the iron bed situation. You know, it's interesting. Moses even says to the children of Israel in that chapter 3, verse 11 of Deuteronomy, if you read on in verse 12, it says that it is there in the city of Rabbah. In other words, it's still there. You can go see it if you've forgotten. It reminds me of all the reminders that were set up as they crossed the Jordan River, and God tells them to pick up 12 stones and to make a monument, to make an altar, so that when their children ask, what is this? They can explain it to them. You see, God has been faithful. He is faithful. He will be faithful. Thank you so much. May you be blessed, and may you have the shalom of God that guards your hearts and minds in our Messiah Yeshua. And may you continue on in your studies in Kosher Pastor and Yeshivat Shuvu. If you're not yet signed up for the Kosher Pastor program, you can do so at kosherpastor.com. Fill out the application and we'll take it from there. If you'd like to get into the full yeshiva, go to shuvu.tv, where you can find information there on how to join the yeshiva. We are so excited about what the Lord is doing all around the world, and we are excited that you are a part of this family. Shalom, God bless you, and Kol Tuv.